Welcome to Delves and Coffee, where we sit back, relax, and enjoy a cup of coffee while we talk about the World of Warcraft. This week's topic is about our Frost Mage, my favorite class and my main, though I got my little alt mage up here. But we're talking about Frostfire. Frostfire has beautiful visuals, came out of the War Within pretty strong, a lot of damage behind Glacial Spike, Comet Storm, and the associated Pyroblast and Meteor. It's great in AoE for Mythic Plus, and it's great in single target. But when the expansion started, Midnight, we kind of got nerfed pretty hard. And Spellslinger actually seemed to adapt very well to the new rework of the Frost core mechanics. So what they did was they changed a lot of our talents around and turned us into more of a builder spender, where we're building up freezing stacks with our different spells. And those stacks go up to 20. They're on our main target or other targets that we're hitting. But we then shatter those, so we're spending by using Ice Lance or different spells to shatter those stacks. And the more stacks that we shatter at once, bigger damage it does. And it does AoE splash damage stuff around. So it's actually been a pretty good synergistic relationship between Spellslinger and the Frost rework. It works pretty well, does good damage, and Frost Mage has been in a pretty good spot for this whole season. But only if you're playing Spellslinger, because Frostfire is not so synergistic with the new core mechanics. Frostfire always had a lot of its damage put into its spells, like Frostfire Bolt, Glacial Spike, Comet Storm. And this new, though it does build freezing stacks and it can shatter, it doesn't build the freezing stacks nearly as fast, and then it also does not end up shattering as much, right? So we lose a lot of shatter damage, and that is the number one damage by far for Spellslinger. But some of that damage goes back into the Glacial Spike and the Pyroblast, and then the Comet Storm. And then we get ignite damage too from anything that has a fire related component, which is pretty strong. But let's take a look at the question here is, can we play Frostfire now? Were those buffs good enough so that it's somewhat on par with Spellslinger? Let's take a quick look at what they buffed. So we're talking about Frostfire Bolt got increased, Pyroblast damage, Shatter damage got a big buff, Flurry damage got increased, and Comet Storm got increased. So all of those are pretty decent damage, but at the same time, you gotta take a little closer look, because most of these things are on a cooldown. So Pyroblast you only get when we're firing off a Glacial Spike, and Shatter damage, well, we're hardly shattering, 1/3, 1/4 as much as Spellslinger is. I mean, I'm shattering stacks all the time. That's not the way in Frostfire. And Flurry damage, once again, Flurry's on a cooldown. And Comet Storm damage, so every time you Ray of Frost, you'll get a Comet Storm afterwards that you can cast. And that got increased to a pretty good damage bonus, but at the same time, Ray of Frost has a cooldown too and charges, so there is more damage being pushed into it, but I don't think Blizzard has really fixed the problem that Frostfire doesn't have that same synergy with how they reworked Frost's core mechanic gameplay. So, but I could be wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look just at the talent tree and verify, so when you're throwing your Glacial Spike, which once again we don't get icicles every time we throw out a Frostfire Bolt anymore. We've got a timer on that, but we will get that Pyroblast. We're getting ignite damage for anything with a fire component, and then Meteor and Pyroblast, they apply that ignite. There it is. And then you got Isothermic Core, so when we're firing that Comet Storm, we're calling down a Meteor. So if you look at the Frostfire spec then, some of these talents compared to Spellslinger have been shifted around because we're going towards Comet Storm down here, and we're increasing the damage of our Frostfire Bolt and our Glacial Spike, right? So technically there should be some damage behind Frostfire, but you know what? Let's go take a look. I'll go take this spec for a run and a delve. I think we'll go do the Grudge Pit, because that's a pretty nice place. It's a one arena with a ton of mobs packed into it. And then we'll gather up a bunch, do some AoE, do some kiting, and then see what kind of damage we're feeling out of Frostfire. Let's go take a look at that delve. Alright, let's take a little mage in here and see what we can do in Grudge Pit. This particular Dell puts all the mobs here into one big arena, so it should be a good opportunity to gather some up with Frostfire. See if it can actually get some good damage with the comet storms and the meteors. And ignite. Alright, we got okay. Several packs of mobs there. And a bunch of packs up there too. Alright, let's try this. This is possibly ill-advised, but we're gonna try it anyway. What's the worst can happen?
Staunch the bleeding.
What we're gonna do is head up here so we can take advantage of some pathing.
Shadows protect you.
I cannot use that item yet. I need to target something first.
Your pain, my pleasure.
We got everybody comfortable up there and head back down
That
here.
item is still recharging.
We'll just head right back up here. Let's throw another.
I do not have a target.
Another blizzard now. So you do end up blizzarding, or pushing blizzard a bit more. That's Frostfire. Does more damage. Just like the glacial spikes do more damage too, and then you got Pyroblast too, so ignite. Oops, didn't mean to shoot that out. Okay, now what else we got? Still alive. Alrighty. Well, that I don't like. These guys are rough. Let's go ahead and pick up this and this. This guy. Let's drop a blizzard here. I'll use another mirror image. Okay.
I cannot use that item yet.
I think I want to finish this guy, so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to use that. Now those barb tooth blood trackers. Ah, I said it right. They actually have pretty nasty bleed they can apply to
Gather
you.
yourself.
That's why we're trying to give them some space. Alright, I think they're okay now. So jumping on the platforms up there won't actually break line of sight for all the casters.
It is not
But it does make most of these guys path to get to you. And then you can jump down, so give you a little time to kite. Alright.
I'll take that.
All of those Frostfire bolts are doing ignite damage. And when you get that flurry, you get the thermal voids, you want to be popping off your ice lances on that. But as you can see, not nearly as many, if he played Spellslinger, not nearly as many glacial Fingers of Frost as we get playing Spellslinger, because ice lances aren't quite as prioritized now with this spec. Oh man, I missed that one. So I got another pack up here and I got the Wailing Spirit. So let's go talk to these guys first. Pick up my goodies. Sometimes you get nice little buffs out of these things. Nothing too big, but
Precious gifts from the earth.
Ooh. And it looks like I also have that over there, which sometimes spawns a mob. So what I'm thinking is I'll pull those three guys up top, take the Wailing Spirit. I remember right, the Wailing Spirit does some cast there. It's not going to be too easy to move. We can bring the rat shells down in. Nope, there's a mob. Okay.
Gather yourself.
Let's go get these guys. And that guy.
Take strength from this.
I am out of range. That item is still recharging.
Is that another cox
I'll take that. Darkness steals you.
I require a target.
Don't waste this.
So of course AoE would be a little better if we had a tank group and everything up for us. But this is alright.
I'll staunch the bleeding.
Okay. Says I got one more fighter to unentangle. Oh, up there.
From the earth.
Okay, we got a few more mobs down there. Don't know how easy it's gonna be to gather them, but let's see. I got mirror image up. All right. Actually, I can gather these guys pretty good. Let's get them all here to beat on me.
Your life is mine.
Oh, never mind. These guys are pretty small. I guess one thing Frostfire does give you is a little bit more mobility just from instant cast. Frostfire bolt. Those come up a lot. That's that Frostfire empowerment. I don't know that it does a ton of damage, but
Your pain, my pleasure.
It is not ready yet.
this guy.
Gather
I
we
need
do
to
have
target something first.
Comet Storm on tap now. Oh, a bigger guy. All right, let's see what we got out of this guy. Lizard. Line up that red box into the comet swarm. Get a glacial spike out.
Stay here and recover.
Unstoppable thorn maws. Oh, that's right. We got to use little bombs on them. Okay. And there are mobs, new mobs all over the rooms. Whoa, where'd this guy come from?
Your pain,
Let's
my
try this.
pleasure.
It's boring just pulling a couple mobs. What we're gonna do is pull everybody up here in the tower, I think. Oops, except for the shot line.
I cannot use that item yet.
I'll take that.
I'm shot by frozen orb. Nowhere. It's not good.
It is not ready yet.
This guy, no. Treat there.
Be bold.
So that Comet Storm Meteor Impact does do a pretty good amount of damage. Yeah, let's give these guys a little.
Gather yourself.
Little blizzard. Spell steal his buff there.
Stay here and recover.
One nice thing about Frostfire for sure is
I require a
you
target.
get a little faster
One
or
moment.
lower cooldown on your stun, Dragon's Breath, because it is a fire spell. Alrighty. Oops. Would have killed one of those guys. And looks like we got, whoa, there's a whole mess of mobs on the other side. I'll tell you what, let's go bomb one more of these guys.
Precious gifts from the earth.
And we'll go clear. Destroy the barrier first, huh? Alright, see if I can collect all these guys. Take them up top. I'll bounce up here, drop them over. Start with that blizzard first, right? That, there's a mirror image. Stun.
Still recharging.
They were war.
Oh, that's some pretty good AoE. Alright. Oh. Alright, looks like it is blocking on the side.
I do not have a target. I cannot use that item yet.
Gather yourself.
No, that actually felt okay. That's not bad. Okay. There we go. Got to do kill Brightthorn. Now that'll be a test to see is kind of DPS we're putting out on single target. Let's find out here. I guess we have hero. Line that up. Frozen Orb out. And we're going to use Blizzard. Charge. So let's line up our Ray of Frost. Comet Storm.
I'll staunch the bleeding.
Right there, that's a trade-off. Spellslinger, you're getting a Fingers Across with every glacial spike.
My pleasure.
But Frostfire, you're getting a Viral Blast, basically. Which is good free damage, sort of.
Take straight from this.
Nope. I think, actually, Fingers Across.
Stay here and recover.
Allowing you to fire Ice Lance into Stack of Shatters and not use any. I think that's actually better. Same right there. You're going to see
Gather yourself.
Frozen Orb. That Spellslinger will give us a Fingers of Frost too with the talents. But since Ice Lance is just not as high up on the party list for Frostfire, we don't get that either. Ah, there we go. Hello. Well, that was a pretty fun little trip to the Grudge Pit. That's a pretty fun little delve this time around, because you just got one big room with all the mobs in it. It's a little tough because they are kind of closely packed, but you don't have to run all over a delve. It doesn't go as fast as you think it would for being one room, since they stagger it, right? You've always got to clear a certain amount of mobs or do something before the next wave comes out. Then you got to do it over again. But at least it's all in one room. But we had some fun kiting a bunch of mobs around and seeing what Frostfire looks like and feels like. I'll tell you, it was doing okay. You can definitely see it has pretty big AoE potential there with the Comet Storms and the Meteors and Glacial Spikes and Pyroblast going out and splitting off to different mobs. So that part's pretty good. Damage looked okay. Maybe some AoE spots it was a little better than Spellslinger, and maybe Spellslinger just have been the same. So maybe not too much different there. And of course, me kiting the mobs is not quite the same as having all those mobs tightly packed around a tank, where everything's staying inside your Blizzard, staying in your Comet Storm, and getting hit by your Meteor. So, but overall, Frostfire looked great, and it played okay. A little bit clunky on the rotation. It's not quite as fluid as Spellslinger. I mean, Spellslinger at this point is pretty reliable. I mean, you know what you're doing. You know how you're going to build your freezing stacks, and it's pretty predictable how fast you'll get them off our different abilities. And then it's pretty predictable too, or reliable. We have a lot of reliable ways to proc that Fingers of Frost too. So once you're familiar with your spells and what they're going to do, then Spellslinger feels a lot more fluid to play than Frostfire does. Now, to get a real idea of the numbers behind Frostfire, so I did take it into Algathar Academy, and I did a 15, and on that very first pull as Frostfire, I actually pushed out a lot bigger numbers than I can do as Spellslinger. I peaked it quite a bit. The overall finish, maybe I was 100k over what I usually do as Spellslinger, maybe 150k. But that's just the first pull of Algathar, where you're pulling all three of those packs with the Vile Lashers together. So that is not something you do in every dungeon. But it was pretty nice damage. I was impressed. By the time I got to the end of Algathar, my overall was a little higher than it is as Spellslinger, but I noticed on every boss fight, I was probably about 10% behind what I usually do as Spellslinger, so single target does not seem to do the same as AoE, right? Which is okay. That said, I played another dungeon as Frostfire. It's not quite like Algathar, because as you know, every dungeon has a little bit different pulls and different mobs. And it was kind of behind where I usually am with Spellslinger by quite a bit. It was Nexus Point, actually, and those pulls are much different than Algathar, right? But I was, I'd say 15 to 20% behind where I usually am with Spellslinger, so that's a pretty big difference. Maybe 15%, but then I did some raid bosses too, as well as Frostfire, and yeah, the raid damage is significantly behind Spellslinger there as well, in the neighborhood of at least 10%, because gosh, I've done those heroic raid bosses quite a bit, and I took it on our weekly heroic clear, and yeah, I could see the numbers. I go, wow, that's significantly less than I usually do. It's not cool. So they buff it, yeah. Is it playable? Yeah. But should we be playing Frostfire now instead of Spellslinger? No. I think you can play Frostfire if you want to do like Mythic Keys at the 10 to 12 range. That's fine. I did some of those this weekend, and you know, at that range, it's just fine. And it did pretty good damage, probably as much as Spellslinger, because Spellslinger loses out a little bit if the mobs aren't staying up long enough for you to really ramp up some freezing stacks on a couple mobs. For higher keys, you're going to get more consistent results out of Spellslinger for sure. And then for raid bosses, Spellslinger was better. I don't think there was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Spellslinger puts out better numbers than Frostfire can on a raid boss. But that's okay. I saw Blizzard had bumped up those spell damages, try to make up some of that difference, and they did. I don't think that Frostfire will really catch up or be on par with Spellslinger until they address the real problem they had is Frostfire doesn't have any synergy with the new the core Frost gameplay, right? Still got a lot of damage inside a Glacial Spike and Comet Storm and the Pyroblast and the Meteor, right? But we're kind of ignoring largely the Shatter mechanic and the freezing stacks. We're shattering much less, we're building much less freezing stacks, and it's not like Spellslinger. Spellslinger was wrapped pretty well around that core gameplay that they changed to for Frost, but Frostfire is not. So until they figure out how to adjust Frostfire so that it more closely works with the new mechanic, then I don't think Frostfire is going to be the go-to. But it does look nice, and it's fun to play. Just not going to be able to output as much damage as you can as Spellslinger. So but that's the conclusion I came away with. And you can go look at Sims yourself online and see that Raid Bots looks like it's pretty well updated, and Frostfire is indeed still behind Spellslinger by quite a bit. And then same with the talk on the Mage forum, but that's okay. We got Spellslinger, and that has been pretty strong for Frostmage this season, and it's put Frostmage in a pretty good spot, one that we hadn't been in quite a while. We're still not quite as great as some of the meta classes there, like your Warlocks, your Unholy DKs, but Frost is a pretty decent class to play right now, especially if you get a little used to how Spellslinger plays and taking advantage of your freezing stacks and the procs you're going to be getting from your different abilities. So, hey, thanks for coming along on this week's episode of Delves and Coffee. I will catch you guys on the next one.